Welcome back to Immigration Updates. Today, imagine a woman named Marie. She has lived in Florida for 11 years. She works as a home health aide, taking care of an elderly patient every single day. She pays her taxes. She has a car loan. Her son is in middle school, born right here in the United States. Marie is not undocumented. She has a valid work permit, and she has had one for over a decade. But this week, everything Marie has built could be standing on ground that is about to disappear. Because right now, across the country, more than 1,300,000 people are facing the exact same uncertainty Marie is facing. And most of them do not even know it yet. But here is what most people still do not realize. This is not a rumor. It is not speculation. It is happening right now, tied to a real Supreme Court decision, a real government deadline, and a real countdown clock that is already ticking. Let's slow down and explain exactly what is going on, because this affects far more people than most news coverage is letting on. This story centers on something called TPS, which stands for Temporary Protected Status. TPS is a legal status the United States government can give to people from countries facing war, natural disaster, or extreme instability. It allows them to live and work in the U.S. legally, even if they do not have a green card. For years, TPS has protected people from countries like Haiti, Syria, Burma, Ethiopia, Somalia, South Sudan, and Yemen. Now here is where things change fast. On June 25, 2026, the USCIS Supreme Court issued a ruling in a case called Mullin v. Doe. In a 6-3 decision, the court ruled that federal courts generally cannot review DHS decisions to end a country's TPS designation. In simple terms, the Supreme Court just gave the Department of Homeland Security much more power to end TPS protections, and took away one of the main tools courts had used to block those terminations. This is where many people make a mistake. They assume a Supreme Court ruling about TPS only affects people from 1 or 2 countries. It does not. This decision opened the door for DHS to move forward on terminating TPS for roughly 10 different country designations, impacting an estimated 1,300,000 people nationwide. Right after that ruling, USCIS, the agency that handles immigration status and work permits, had to act quickly. Work permits for TPS holders from several countries were about to expire. So USCIS issued temporary guidance extending some of those work permits for just a short window, to give lower courts time to catch up with the Supreme Court's decision. For people from Burma, Ethiopia, Somalia, South Sudan, Syria, and Yemen, that extension ran through July 17. For people from Haiti, it was extended a little further, through July 24. Today, that means for hundreds of thousands of Haitian TPS holders, the temporary safety net that has kept their work permits valid is expiring right now, as you're watching this. And unless another extension or court order comes through, tomorrow could look very different for a lot of families. Let's talk about why this actually matters, beyond the legal language. If your work permit is tied to TPS, your ability to work legally in the United States is tied directly to that status. If TPS ends and is not replaced by some other extension, your employer may no longer be able to legally continue employing you. In places like Florida, this is not a small issue. Industry groups have estimated that around 93,000 workers in Florida alone could be affected, many of them in hospitality, healthcare, construction, and caregiving roles. Jobs that hospitals, nursing homes, hotels, and families depend on every single day. This is not just a recommendation. In some cases, it is federal law that determines whether someone can legally hold a job in this country. Employers use a form called I-9, along with a system called E-Verify, to confirm someone's legal right to work. When a TPS work permit expires without another valid document behind it, that verification can fail. And when that happens, an employer may be legally required to stop that person's employment, even if they've worked there for years, even if they've never missed a shift, even if they are, in every other way, a model employee. What happens next surprises a lot of people. Losing TPS does not necessarily mean someone has to leave the country immediately. But it can mean losing lawful status, losing the right to work, and in some cases, becoming vulnerable to removal proceedings if there is no other path to legal status available. For families who have spent 10, 15, sometimes 20 years building a life here, that uncertainty is not just a legal problem. It's a life problem. It affects mortgages. It affects children in school. It affects whether a parent can keep paying for their family's home. So what should you actually do if this affects you, or someone you know? First, do not rely on second-hand information, social media rumors, or unofficial forwarded messages. TPS guidance is changing quickly, sometimes week to week. The only reliable source right now is USCIS directly, along with official court filings tied to your specific country's case. Second, if your TPS status is connected to Haiti, Syria, Burma, Ethiopia, Somalia, South Sudan, or Yemen, check your expiration dates immediately. Do not assume your work permit is still valid just because it was valid last month. These extensions have specific expiration windows, and missing that detail can create serious problems very quickly. Third, if you are an employer with TPS employees, talk to an immigration attorney or HR compliance specialist now, not after a problem shows up. Understanding how to properly document status under a court order, using the correct language on Form I-9, can protect both you and your employees from unnecessary disruption. Fourth, and this is important, if your TPS protection is at risk of ending, it may be worth speaking with an immigration attorney about other potential paths to legal status, including asylum, especially if conditions in your home country remain dangerous. This is a decision that depends heavily on your individual situation, so professional legal guidance matters here more than ever. This is not meant to frighten you. It's meant to prepare you. Because the biggest danger right now isn't the policy itself. It's people not knowing it's happening until it's too late to plan. Let's do a fast recap of what we just covered. The Supreme Court ruled in Mullen versus Doe that federal courts have limited power to block DHS from ending TPS designations. That ruling opened the door to potential terminations affecting an estimated 1,300,000 people across roughly 10 countries. USCIS issued short-term work permit extensions to give courts time to adjust, with most countries covered through July 17, and Haiti specifically extended through today, July 24. Tens of thousands of workers, especially in states like Florida, could see their legal ability to work disrupted if no further protection is issued. And real consequences, like job loss and loss of lawful status, are already on the table for many families. This story is still moving. Courts are still responding. USCIS guidance could change again in the coming days. That's exactly why staying informed matters so much right now. If you or someone in your life holds TPS status from any of the countries we mentioned today, do not wait to find out what this means for you. Check USCIS directly. Talk to a licensed immigration attorney if your status is close to expiring. And if this video helped you understand what's really happening, share it with someone who might be affected but hasn't heard the news yet. A coworker, a neighbor, a family member. This channel exists to cut through the confusion and give you clear, accurate, human explanations of the immigration news that actually affects your life. Subscribe so you don't miss the next update, because with a story moving this fast, the next update could come sooner than you think.